Good morning. It is August. Is it August 12th? It's August 12th. Thank you. We're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to start the meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me for a prayer. Heavenly Father, we beseech your divine guidance in this meeting. Keep us ever mindful of our obligation. Grant us, dear Lord, wisdom, tolerance, and courage that we may well serve our county and fulfill our trust. Amen. Amen.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the August 5th meeting.
I will second the motion.
Motion second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes. And next up, we have a proclamation to present to, we have, well, a lot of folks in the room, but specifically Philip Titterington's here on behalf of the Mental Health and Recovery Board, and also some folks from the Hope Recovery community. So this is a resolution proclaiming August 31st, 2025 is Overdose Awareness Day in Medina County. And I will just read this before we take action on it. Whereas International Overdose Awareness Day is recognized globally to acknowledge those whose lives have been lost and to raise awareness about the risks of overdose and to acknowledge the grief felt by families, friends, and communities when remembering those who have died. Whereas this day also aims to publicly challenge the stigma associated with a substance use disorder and reminds us that no one should feel shame at the death of someone from this disease. Whereas in 2024, Medina County recorded more than 240 drug-related emergency room visits, resulting in 19 deaths, shattering the lives of families and friends and devastating the community. Whereas Medina County remains committed to raising awareness surrounding overdose morbidity and mortality by reducing stigma through education, prevention, treatment, and recovery support. And whereas this day is an opportunity to stand beside those who have lost loved ones and those who are diligently working toward recovery and to remind them that they are supported, deserving of dignity and respect, and worthy of recovery. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Medina County, Ohio, hereby proclaims August 31, 2025 as Overdose Awareness Day in Medina County. Be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Medina County, Ohio, hereby offers hope to those in and seeking recovery from addiction and comfort to families, friends, and loved ones of those lost too soon.
I will make a motion to approve.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Thank you for being here today and for the support that you provide to the community on this. Roll call, please.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes. And could you all come up? We'd love to take a photo.
Yeah, of course. You can start in the middle.
The big chair.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. You don't want to say anything? You're going to say something later, because I know you don't want to pass up an opportunity to speak.
He only comes if we offer him the mic.
Very true. My name is Stephanie Robinson, and I'm the founding executive director at Hope Recovery Community. I'm also a person in long-term recovery. So for me, that means I haven't used drugs, alcohol, or engaged in eating disorder behaviors for over 17 years. Thank you. And I just thank you for this. On behalf of Hope Recovery Community, we have established Medina as a place that no longer fears addiction but embraces recovery. And it's fine. It just gets me emotional because I grew up here and this was not always the case here. And beyond this pretty piece of paper, you are putting dollars behind these words. You are putting funding, investment, and commitment by the Medina County Mental Health and Recovery Board, but also the commissioners. I'm seeing your name all over all sorts of things that are really important for us, because we can say these things, but without the crucial funding to back up these things, it's all kind of just a nice bumper sticker or t-shirt, right? And so the commitment to recovery in this community is just unbelievable. We are continuing to decrease the overdose deaths, not only in Medina, but in the state of Ohio and across the country. And Medina is a leader, not just in Ohio, but also across the country. And we should be so proud of that. And we thank you. And people like Alicia and Ken and Alicia and Kyle and Autumn and Gage and Robbie and Josh and Anthony and Dan and Tony, they thank you. These are friends that I have been to their funerals. They thank you. And they matter. And while the number is low, every single one of those deaths is still preventable. So we will continue to push on, and we're just really grateful for your support. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stephanie. Okay, at this time, we are open for public comment regarding any pending resolutions. Is there any public comment regarding pending resolutions? No, seeing none. We will move on to our resolutions, starting with our county engineer, who is represented today by Mr. Dan Becker.
Morning.
Dan.
Good morning.
I've got 4 resolutions for your consideration today. The
Five.
first, sorry?
5?
Okay, I'll do 5 too. Since you asked nice. The first is accepting and awarding the CH-19 Lake Road realignment project. The next is establishing and updating bridge load limits for Richmond Road. The third is establishing and updating bridge load limits for Sanford Road. The fourth is the same updating of bridge load limits for Melody Lane. And the last is the same for Dumfries Way. I think I said that right.
I will make a motion to approve the 5 resolutions.
Second the motion.
Motion second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Next up, Jeremy Cinco, sanitary engineer.
Morning, everyone.
Morning,
Good
Jeremy.
morning.
6 resolutions for consideration today. The first is amending a construction inspection service agreement with Answer Advisory for the 2nd Street Sanitary Sewer and Water Replacement Project. The second is authorizing the sanitary engineer to obtain easements for the Chippewa Wastewater Treatment Plant and the Hawks Ridge subdivision. The third is awarding the 2024 Home Sewage System Replacement Project. The fourth is authorizing the sanitary engineer to enter into an agreement with Wade Trim for construction inspection services for the Canby Building Project. The fifth is a resolution authorizing the sanitary engineer to apply for, accept, and enter into a water pollution control loan fund agreement on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners of Medina County, Ohio, for design of Plum Creek pump station facilities and designating a dedicated repayment source for the loan. And the final is declaring the necessity to install water main along Greenwich and Lake Road and authorizing the sanitary engineer to commence advertising for construction bids.
I'll make a motion to approve the 6 resolutions.
Second the motion.
Motion second, is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Holly Murin from HR. Morning, Holly.
Good morning.
Morning.
On our personnel changes resolution today, we have 5 rate increases, 1 in maintenance, 2 at senior and adult services, 1 at job and family services, and 1 in sanitary, 1 promotion in sanitary, 1 leave of absence at job and family services, 1 leave of absence ending at job and family services, and 1 retirement in transit.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second the motion.
Motion second, is there any discussion? Roll call.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Brett Thomas from Finance.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I have 7 resolutions for you guys this week. We're going to start off with expenditure adjustments for various funds. This is to move money around for the juvenile and probate courts as well as adult probation for their TCAP and their CCA grants. Our second resolution is cash transfers. This is insurance costs for the child support, public assistance, and social services side of things. Our third resolution is authorizing for the print shop revenue line item in the amount of $5,060.76. Our fourth resolution is the movement for the monthly gasoline rotary fund, and that is for $23,402.87. Our sixth resolution is travel for county officials.
That's the 5th.
5th.
That's the fifth.
That's the 5th.
Sorry, my bad. I have one numbering off. So our fifth resolution is for our county travel for the public officials. We have everybody is in state. We do have a little bit of a larger one there for the sheriff going to the Midwest Crisis Negotiators Conference for 3 days. And then our weekly bills, I actually have a one less resolution than I thought. Our weekly bills in the amount of $2,772,366.62.
I'll make a motion to approve the 6 resolutions.
Second the motion.
Motion second. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Brett. Next up, Matt Springer from the county administrator. From right down the hall, I should say.
3 resolutions. The first one is establishing a list of engineers and architects to assist with professional design services. These are used for our capital improvements in 2026. The second resolution is authorizing a change order for the Hubbard Valley Radio Tower project. This is $8,700 and it's compliance with a permit for some culvert work. And then the third and final is approving a 3-month lease extension for the Wadsworth Auto Title. They'll remain in their present location throughout the duration of 2025. That 3-month extension will take them through the end of the year, in which they'll move into their new place of stay, which is 1154 Hinkle Drive, which is the Home Depot Plaza.
I'll make a motion to approve the 3 resolutions.
Second the motion.
Motion second. Is there any discussion? I had a question on the change order. That was the actual work, was the 8,700?
That's
right?
correct,
Okay.
yeah. So that's all the earthwork, the culvert.
Yeah. For some reason, when I read through it, I wasn't sure if it was just, there was a way that I read it that I thought it might have just been the permit, and that would have
No.
been, that would have raised an eyebrow, so. Maybe not to some people in the room, but, yeah, good. Any other discussion? No? Roll call.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have department updates, and we're going to kick off with, Skip Sipos from Metro Housing.
Commissioners, everyone.
Morning, Skip.
Morning.
Thanks for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. I wanted to quickly give you an update on the Coordinated Community Plan that was adopted by the commissioners back in February of 2022. Plan your work, your plan. So real quickly, we have a slide here that's going to show you the 3-legged stool that I referred to. You can go ahead and give me that slide. There we go. So 3 things that we talked about in the plan. We came away with knowing that we needed additional affordable housing for the county. We know that we needed supportive housing, and we learned from the plan, which was funded by State Representative Sharon Ray, we knew that we needed an emergency shelter. These came about. On the affordable housing front, a housing network, Medina County Housing Network, which is an advisory group to you, the commissioners, adopted the plan, and the Housing Authority has worked to increase the number of landlords in its rental assistance programs. Those are federal, state, and local plans. We've coordinated applications with Habitat for Humanity for affordable home ownership opportunities. We've facilitated the formation of MICA, the Medina Interfaith Coalition on Affordable Housing, which was created by 7 churches here in the county, my own included. We work with Medina County Economic Development Corporation on workforce housing and the initiatives needed for our business community. And we are collaborating on potential development and maintaining the properties that we have with key stakeholders like our friends at the Mental Health and Recovery Board. On the supportive housing front, thanks to the commissioners, with a donation of land and financial support, the City of Medina financial support, and planning and zoning assistance, Congressman Max Miller with a contribution of funding to make the property energy efficient, financing from Westfield Bank, local bank, that's what it's called this week, and the Housing Authority itself putting money in. This will create 10 units of affordable housing for folks who need supports. They have a federally defined disability, but they're also facing a housing crisis. The last thing, though, of course, and again, thanks to the commissioners, State Senator Mark Romanchuk, State Representative Ray, and the authority's contribution of its former office building, we created Next Step Up, the county's first emergency housing shelter. And each one of the things that we're talking about here comes with comprehensive case management. We're not just opening a door, we're not just pointing somebody towards something. The program director for the Housing Authority, who's here with me today, Jessie Kane, her team provides comprehensive case management and some unique ways of working with folks. As a reminder, Next Step Up has 27 beds and 2 cribs. It's open 24 hours a day, every day of the calendar year. It serves men, women, and children, and when necessary, their pets. If I could have the next slide, please. Some interesting statistics for you. Since February 28th, when Next Step Up opened, 101 humans have entered shelter, and 5 canines and 1 feline. 12 children, which is a heartbreaking kind of a thing for me, have been guests at the shelter, and we call them guests, and it's important for us to remember that. These are our guests. 14 households, and a household can be one or more. 14 households have successfully exited shelter and entered into their own lease agreements. 18 other households have self-resolved, reconnecting with family or friends, and we call that success. When you exit shelter into more appropriate housing, that's a success. 3 veteran households have obtained VASH vouchers through Next Step Up, meaning they came to us. We found we have special vouchers, rental assistance vouchers for veterans. 2 others through our other programming back at the Housing Authority. 19 people from, we'll call them guests, have secured meaningful employment. And on any given night, 26.2 of the 27 beds and 2 cribs are occupied. Some anecdotal information, if I could have the next slide real quickly. We've received financial support. Next up, we created a 501c3 to help us with fundraising, so we won't be reliant totally on government dollars. Service organizations like Lions Clubs, the fraternal organizations like Eagles, social groups like the 100+ Women Who Care chose Next Step Up recently. Lots of individuals, many of whom want to remain anonymous. Checks as large as $5,000 show up unsolicited. It is unbelievable generosity here in the county. And of course, many, many churches. Volunteer groups from churches and individual families. I'd point out the Leatherman family from Wadsworth, Barb Leatherman, her husband, her son, her daughter-in-law. They come to the shelter once a month, provide the meals, put flowers on every one of the tables in the dining hall on their own, pay for it themselves. It's crazy cool. And then we're working with organizations that provide services. So the health department, the free clinic of Medina County, and Hope Recovery, who's here earlier, coming in, doing programming. We're focusing on wellness. In addition to that, we work with OSU Extension, the county library system, and others with an emphasis on learning for our guests so they can exit successfully. Again, the case management services are there to help provide the guests with the best opportunity to have success. The last slide, if you would, please. I'll share that Next Step Up is doing what it was planned to do. It's provide a welcoming and dignified place for our guests. We use the phrase, it's a place to land and a place to launch. You have it on the impact report that I've placed at each one of your places. We're going to leave some outside there for folks if they want it. It's the perfect example of Medina County and the collaboration that takes place here. Commissioner Handley likes to say, in some jurisdictions, people ask what's in it for me, and in Medina County, people here say, how can I help? That's my presentation for you this morning. I'm happy to entertain any questions you might have.
So 26 of the 27 beds per night. So that probably
Count the
means-
cribs in there, so 20, yes.
Yeah. So at some nights that probably means you're beyond capacity.
We're full,
Yeah.
yes.
But you're full any given night. Otherwise, yeah. So, what does that mean in terms of the need or the? I mean, there's still some unmet need. Is that where other organizations can come in and help? Fill
Still,
those
like
gaps?
St. Vincent de Paul helps, still churches still help. And part of our plan is to make sure that we can get the folks exited successfully, quickly.
So what's
Turnarounds.
what's the average stay then for the guests? Do you?
32.57 days
Okay.
in anticipation of that question.
Okay, thank you. I knew you had that answer.
Give or take a quarter of a day.
Yes.
Yeah. How does that? Do you have is there a metric or is that? I mean, that seems like a pretty good 30 days to get back on your feet and get those kinds of outcomes.
For those that can, yes.
Yeah, that
Yes.
seems like a good number. Is there a target for that or what that? Ought
Yeah,
to be,
we have opted not to have a time limit because
Yeah.
we feel that just forces activity that it maybe isn't in the best interest of the guests. So
Yep.
if folks are working towards their case plan, everyone signs a community agreement. It includes a housing plan. If they're making progress, great. If they choose not to follow through, People have heard me say this 100 times. It's your turn to take out the trash. It's your turn to empty the dishwasher. If folks aren't doing what they're assigned, they get opportunities to turn that behavior around, but then they are asked to leave. And so we will then open that bed up. But we've had, like I said, for me, it's unbelievably impressive that we've had, in basically 6 months, folks entering into leases, gaining meaningful employment. It's doing what it was planned to do.
That's great. Other question?
Awesome, congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
Great
Thanks for
job.
being, thanks for all your work.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Philip Titterington. From, I've got to consult my notes too, because it's a mouthful. Mental Health and Recovery Board, because
I just still want to start off, I appreciate Skip. You gave me 9 minutes. His was 9 minutes.
Did he yield? Oh, I see. He's giving, you're equal
You guys
this time.
cut me down to like 37 seconds.
I don't think that's ever happened.
No, I think you try, but it's a public meeting and you can't. No, I do appreciate it. Philip Titterington from the Mental Health and Recovery Board. I also have with me my Associate Director, Tiffany Shelton. So some of the numbers, some of the things that we see aren't possible without her on the staff, putting up with me for so many years. Just to follow up, so the two things that we're really watching right now, how it's going to impact is, first of all, is if you're not familiar with, I know you are, we have that property tax and what's going to happen with that property tax. And we have a levy, and without that property tax, a lot of these programs, a lot of these successes aren't going to happen. Secondly is the state has taken it upon itself to create a new funding formula, and it directly impacts how they fund boards. So as we navigate through this biennium budget, I can tell you that some of the metrics that they're using, overdose numbers over 3 years, suicide rates over 3 years, poverty levels, access to transportation, veterans, population. So long story short is, when they mapped it all out and what that formula looks like, there are winners and there are non-winners. We're going to be a non-winner. So I say that as the impact that we have with the money that we get, and what does that look like for, moving forward. So we'll be having discussions, obviously, looking at property taxes, looking at if that goes away, what that's going to impact. But today I'm going to kind of share with you some of those successes, some of the things that we were able to serve based on those funding sources that are there. First is I'll piggyback a little bit off of what Skip said. We do, through the Mental Health Recovery Board, assist with crisis management, crisis staff, as well as some of our properties and transitioning from the shelter guests, getting them on their feet. So that's just one way that we're able to assist with these dollars. So I'll go through some numbers for you, just so you are aware. So we have 44 supportive housing units, full wait list. We are currently supporting 10 individuals in adult group homes. And those those costs can go up to about $3,500 a month per person. Do the math, even 10 months, it's easier for me. Now you're looking at $350,000, $400,000 a year just for those placements. Those are individuals that sometimes are there for a lifetime. We want to make sure, integrate them back into the community. We do have Northland 2, which is a homeless, defined, it was like the first, I guess, right? Homeless shelter or homeless place units. So we do work with, and when you're talking about wait lists, so you're talking about, when he's at 26, 27 beds, we do have that sometimes that we're able to help with that as well. We continue, so we have 11 in our units there, full. As we progress, and with mental illness, you see a lot in the criminal justice, you see it in the jail, you see, substance use disorder, our forensic numbers just keep increasing. Individuals then, judges can order them for competency, for evaluations, and they either go to the community for community restoration, or they're going to the state hospital. State hospitals are full. We try to get them on a wait list. We try to get them in there. So we work very closely with the jail, because you don't want to house an individual who needs that kind of treatment in the jail, if you will. So then I'll tell you now about the agency data. We have Alternative Paths, Ohio Guidestone, Catholic Charities primarily. Those are going to be the three agencies that we focus on, so you can hear these numbers. The one thing we've been able to do is at least reduce transportation barriers, like Wadsworth in 4 different areas. Alternative Paths is in Wadsworth, Lodi, Brunswick, as well as Medina. Ohio Guidestone has 2 locations in Medina, plus they travel, they're in the schools as well as doing it at home. Catholic Charities has a presence in Brunswick as well as in Medina. So we try to reduce the barriers, get people out there, get them accents. So the reporting period is from April through June. So during this time period, there were 6,648 total clients that were served by those 3 agencies. 90% were adults, 10% were youth. Of those, 1,962 or 33% of the adults and 211 or 33% of the youth had required psychiatric services, so more intensive services. 296 or 46% of the youth were diagnosed with a serious emotional disturbance. We have the Youth Resiliency Center that's been operational, state of the art, has multi-rooms because, as we all know, treatment talk therapy doesn't work for everyone. So they have sand rooms, mud rooms. We're not doing mud, but we have calming room. We have all kinds of different things that are available for them: basketball court, creative rooms, art rooms, movement rooms. So trying to get more of an individualized, trauma-centered approach for youth. We also use that funding to fill unfunded gaps, if you will. We have the 24/7 Crisis Behavioral Health Line, which we're running in conjunction with 988 as we try to ramp up 988. 988, our local is in Lorain County. They are our call center. So we're working with Lorain County. When individuals from Medina County call 988, that they are linked into our services. It's a challenge, so we're working through that. So at the time, we're keeping up with our local crisis behavioral health line. And I mean, the reason why is during this reporting period, there were 970 crisis engagements on that hotline. 92 of those individuals verbalized suicidal thoughts, and 98 referrals were made directly from police. So we'll work on that transition as we go, but right now, we really absolutely can't get rid of that local. We also have a loss team. So that's the team who goes out, provides outreach to suicide survivors, because suicide survivors have an increased risk of committing suicide themselves after witnessing or being a part of that. So having this team reach out has just been beneficial. We had 8 of those during that 3-month period. And then we talk about a lot recovery supports. We just did the overdose awareness proclamation. I can't say enough, and I joked about having, I can't speak how Stephanie does, how powerful that is. All we can do is fund and not get in their way. And we do appreciate the funding as well. There's a lot of braided funding, and the commissioners and the county opioid funds and all those kind of things that just really helped out tremendously. So they operate 365 days. They have that 24/7 Hope Link peer line program. And that served 313 calls, and that isn't even advertised. So that's just word of mouth that's going out there as well. They have 10 certified peer recovery supports that are employed by Hope Recovery Community. Ohio Guidestone has 6. This is the last page. And they also provide peer support in the jail. So that's been fantastic, transitioning, getting them linked up in the jail so when they come back, they have a place. They're connected, and they don't end up maybe at Next Step Shelter or somewhere else like that. Hope Recovery Community linked during this reporting period, these 3 months, 139 individuals to detox, residential, or recovery housing. Now, when insurance doesn't cover that, the board, Mental Health and Recovery Board, will cover that expense. And then recovery housing, I think we're doing pretty well, and there's obviously a lot more to be needed, especially when we have all these support services, right? Put them in a housing. Housing is very important. It also works in conjunction and off of the Next Step Shelter as well. We have the 12 Women Mental Health and Recovery Board, our house, Discover Recovery House. That's full. Waiting list. There's 40 male beds throughout. There's going to be some additional ones through some of the county One Ohio funding or the opioid settlement funding. They're building extra rooms in the existing houses that they have there. They did open a level 1 women's condo So there are 2 women that are living in that condo that actually transitioned from the level 3 into our level 3 Discovery Recovery House into this housing, so it shows that progression. And then, once again, the county opioid funding has just been instrumental. So we look forward to actually working with Commissioner Hambley with the One Ohio Foundation, seeing what other additional dollars. I know it looks like sometimes, well, we have recovery housing. We still have a need. And honestly, the way it's being operated through Hope Recovery Community, through other partnerships, you have good, really good recovery housing. I don't know when the last time, and I'm not going to jinx it, but that we've heard horror stories, right? I don't hear those stories like deplorable or things like that. So it's run very well, very effectively. So the more that we can put in the housing, and the communities have just been fantastic in terms of. And I know the next step is they're looking in Brunswick to add to there as well. So that's my report. Questions? Did I beat Steve?
Pretty good.
Yeah, I beat Skip, didn't I?
You were not too long.
Nice. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks,
for being
Phil.
here. Next up, we have Jody Robbins from the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Hard to say.
It is.
Well, is it any wonder that it's easy to market Medina County? Come on. All right. Well, it's summer and we've been busy, so let's just get on it. So, June 17th and 18th, Brandy Gleason from Ohio Road Trips is a Facebook group where people look to travel within Ohio. She comes to visit twice a year. She was able to shoot content at the following places: Princess Ledges, Larb, Market 42, Plum Creek, Buzzard Cove, Berries Blossoms, Westfield Inn, Moxie's, Village Inn, Well Cafe, 18 West, Finfickle Goods, Seville Flower and Gifts, Scoops, and the Northeast Ohio Live Steamers. That was a fun one. Westfield Inn graciously comped a night's stay for both Brandy and I to go down and shoot content. We're hoping to use this to promote midweek travel to Westfield and using those assets to market the Westfield corporate amenities to business groups as we kind of build that corporate travel. The reel that she created for Owen Slugger Nature Preserve performed really well at about 17,000 views. On June 18th, I was able to shoot a Medina County segment with WAOH in Akron, which is an online-based news station that serves the community. They have travel segments every once in a while to encourage visitors in the region. I spoke about the summer events and the activities, shared the information about the Medina County Park District, and it was aired on their social media as well as ours. Matt Dom, our summer intern, and I spent 2 days representing the CVB at Black Cat's Big Ohio Book Con. Wow, that was a whirlwind. We spoke with well over 200 people that came to our booth for information and assistance in finding places to eat during their stay in Medina County. We spoke with people from as far away as Utah and Idaho, several from the New York area, many other from Ohio counties, and some even from Atlanta, Georgia. Follow-up for this event took place during a somewhat emergency meeting. The staff of Black Cat alerted us that they had only after 1 year of the event grown out of their space. They had 4,000 attendees. They stated that they needed to be creative with the event and have some alternative options, or they would need to host the event in Cuyahoga County. So I threw on quickly my CVB director's hat, rallied the CVB staff, and we got to work through multiple emails with the fair event staff, calls and a meeting with Williams on the Lake, calls with Holiday Inn Express, and in Medina, and Matt's work with reaching out to make a connection with VIP Limo in Medina, we were able to help secure the first weekend in June 2026 for the event, second event. So Black Cat has made deposits with each vendor and has begun booking vendors and New York Times best-selling authors for the event. It was evident that some work needs to be done with Fair Board relationship building, so thank you for that encouragement. And I was invited to attend the September Fair Board meeting, and my hope is to be able to present CVB updates to that board before the end of 2025. Matt and I had been meeting with Sean at Hillendale for several months to discuss the Ohio Sporting Clays Championship. Hillendale was chosen for both 25 and 26 as the host for this event. We assisted with several small parts of the event planning aspects and spent time at the event on Friday. Sean was gracious enough to put a link to our website in his multi-page guide, encouraging the attendees where they could stay, where they could eat, We spoke with shared guides with participants, which were over 450, with participants and their families from Michigan, New York, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Kentucky, and from all over cities in Ohio. I recently met with the Tick and Teas of Central Ohio. It is a Model T group tour that have their 36th annual All Ohio Jamboree. So this tour this year will be held in Wayne and Medina counties. I helped to coordinate lunch for 160 travelers at the Chatham General Store on Friday, August 29th. So if you want to see a lot of Model T cars, be at the Chatham General Store on the 29th. And we're also going to host some Historical Society. Chatham's Historical Society is going to open up for some of those guests to see that while they eat lunch. And then Matt and I went out and got a really good malt and talked to the store owner to coordinate details. There's benefits everywhere.
Are they going to serve those Kmart subs? Because, they started serving Kmart subs about 1.5 years ago.
They are. So we got a menu from them. We got a menu from them, and then they shared the menu with all the people that are getting. Those Kmart subs are really good.
They are, yeah. Yep.
A malt and Kmart
Shelf
sub.
stable, too,
Yes.
by the way. That's important.
They're very shelf stable, which is scary, but they're
Try not to
still
think
good.
about
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
right. We just eat it quickly and chase it down with a malt, and you're good. Matt and I will be working with a film crew that will be in Medina for a few weeks in September. There's a local writer that wrote a screenplay called Carousel, and we're going to be allowing them to escape the heat and use our offices while they're shooting on the square. Matt and I were able to sit down with Manfred of Main Street. We also had Lindsay Hansen, who's the new sales manager of the Legacy Hotel, Bob Purdy from Blue Hotel in Akron, and Lisa Real of Autonomy Capital. We sat down and discussed Placer AI, which I'll talk about. But what it turned into was the group really felt like they didn't have a good handle on everything that happened in Medina specifically. So we're going to Matt and I are going to organize a mini fam tour and kind of take them out and show them all the places and talk about, what groups might be seeing when they're there so that they can kind of build their information, what they're sharing so that we're all on the same page. Balloons over Wadsworth. Matt was there on the 8th and 9th. He was on site there. Friday morning was a sneak peek media launch featuring sponsorships and Channel News 5. Saturday welcomed nearly 10,000 attendees to Wadsworth Municipal Airport for the event. The hot air balloon teams came from all over Ohio, but also Michigan, Indiana, and Texas. The Medina County CVB was a balloon sponsor for 2025, but going forward, it's clear that the CVB will work to promote this as a premier event in not only Medina County, but all over Ohio. Wadsworth has continued time after time to bring fun, exciting events to their community, just like Balloons Over Wadsworth, and we can't wait to see it grow next year. So, community partners. Matt and I recorded a Wadsworth Chamber podcast. We shared about who we are, what we do, and this was shared in the Chamber email newsletter and hosted on their website, and then we shared it on social as well. Matt and I were able to present at the June 26th Kiwanis lunch about the CVB. We took guides and were asked general questions about the upcoming events. And of course, they asked us about the hotel. And we just smiled and said it's opening soon. Matt and I attended the lunch and learned about the Medina County Parks District that MCEDC hosted, and we were able to speak with Director Nate Epic and share some exciting plans and kind of talk to him about some ideas we had to work together. I met with Auditor Anthony Capretta and John Hunter. We discussed bed tax strategies. Apparently, a while ago, there was a study done that warranted that Medina County didn't necessarily need to change how they go about reaching out for taxes when they're not met. And so I have some work ahead of me to kind of challenge that a little bit and say, no, I think it's worth it. So we're more to come on that. Matt and I attended the MCEDC summer event at the Blair Center, so that was great. Matt was able to get some great photos of the event and then use them for our social and economic development. Matt attended the after-hours event for the North Medina County Chamber Alliance and experienced the new Plum Creek Trail in Medina County for the Park District, so that was exciting. Got some really good pictures and was able to network at Market 42 afterwards. And Matt also attended the Valley City Frog Jump, so we have a lot of good promotional photography for that. Matt, Dom, and I sat down with Chris Zaffel, who's the organizer of the Facebook group Dine Medina County. I don't know if any of you are familiar. We talked about how we can work together to share posts to kind of get that information out to our visitors. I was able to sit down with Shannon Rhyme from Medina County Transit just to kind of learn a little bit more about what they do, what they offer. It was decided that they have a few programs that might help us from a tourism standpoint, but because most of our events on the weekends, we have to look for other ways for transportation. So I'm going to continue to look into those with other transportation groups. Met with Main Street Medina about several of their events. We will be sponsoring the new Ghost Walk, which will take place in October, and then again attended a Main Street Placer AI workshop to kind of start understanding how those numbers are used. Continue work with the Fall Foliage Board. We hosted our informational night, and we're able to meet our hosts for the October event. And right now we are in the map making and sponsorship phase. So more to come on that. The event is the 11th and 12th of October. America 250, those meetings are still happening. Matt actually worked with the city to create an ad for the November-December Ohio Magazine issue that will highlight America 250 events in the Ohio area. Marketing promotion. So this is kind of a big one for us, and then I'll wrap it up. We partnered with the state of Ohio for a co-op marketing program. So basically what that means is we were able to take our best foot forward places of tourism. The state paid for half of that and we paid for half of that, and then the state gets to use it. So that was a lot of work. The content shoot took place on May 16th and 17th. The 2-day shoot captured 18 unique Medina County must-see spots, including shops, attractions, restaurants, parks, and farmers markets. Matt and I spent countless hours organizing the 2 days, selecting 47 individuals for talent, collecting forms, and then choosing the shots to be used by the state to promote the county. So after they went out and took all the pictures, we spent hours trying to decide which ones were the best to kind of present. I also spent a lot of time working on the on the storytelling portion. The assets are hosted on the MCCVB website, as well as Ohio, the Heart of It All. So if you go to Ohio, the Heart of It All website and you click on travel inspirations, you will see a list of different areas to visit. And right now, Medina County is in that main spot. So very exciting. Very, very exciting. Social media. Matt's social media efforts have gotten us over 4,000 Facebook followers. About 1,600 Instagram followers, 206 LinkedIn. We're working on it. And we're now over 8,000 for our newsletter readership. So that's great. Matt has been literally sweating creating our golf guide. So the kids' guide was so well received. And Matt's been working on a golf guide that we can kind of partner with some of our, again, that corporate travel idea. So he's been golfing and taking friends with him and getting assets that we can use for this golf guide. And speaking of guides, we have decided that the best way to present Medina County to people who could be visiting here is for us to write the story. So we have taken on guide creation for 2026. So we actually have a meeting right after this. We brought that in-house because we felt that we can tell the story best. So we'll be working with local folks to kind of help us bring that to fruition. We're really excited about it. So far this year, we're up about 18% of the requests that we get for mailed guides. So board training is one of my initiatives, and we felt that it was time to kind of highlight to the community and our stakeholders who we are and what we do, since we've been kind of telling everybody else. So we are holding 3 meetings. The invitations went out this morning. 3 meetings, 3 opportunities for people that we promote on the regular to come find out who we are and what we do. So the first meeting is Tuesday, September 16th, and that will be lunch at Hemingway's. The next meeting is Thursday, September 23rd, and that will be a breakfast meeting at King Street Coffee in Wadsworth. And the last one will be a evening drinks and appetizers at Market 42 on September 25th. That's my report. Any questions?
I do. I guess I don't understand. What is specifically the situation with the auditor's office on the bed tax?
Oh, when we spoke, so in my experience talking to other CVBs in the area, they have a very good, defined, streamlined method of how things are recorded. And there have been several instances in just the last year and a half that I've been there that there have been changes in ownership or changes in policy or managers and whatever who have left kind of a lull. So not everyone was aware of how they needed to remit those taxes.
Now, this is for the short-term stays? Are you talking about like?
I'm not talking short-term, no, I'm talking about hotels.
Hotels themselves? Okay.
And so they were Anthony was very good about getting me the names. So like Brunswick, I know we don't have to worry about that. I've talked to Grant multiple times. He's kind of on it. Wadsworth, we have, American Hospitality Group that does a really good. Medina is a little bit different in that, the city oversees those, but some are outside the city limits. And so the work needs to be done on my part to kind of figure out how we can make sure those are all streamlined. But there's a trickiness there because I shouldn't know who's not remitting their tax, if that's the case, because it can kind of create conflict of interest. And so we're just trying to work with the auditor's office about, how frequently those are being collected. We have a quarterly distribution that we get, but there's been a little bit of, it isn't a specific date every month. So we're just kind of trying to work together to streamline that. Isn't a specific date each quarter.
Okay.
So just working on that. Okay. Did that clarify your question?
Yes.
Awesome.
And then your example with the Black Cat situation raised a couple thoughts. One, make sure you and everybody else completes the fair survey.
I did.
Good.
Matt
because
did.
I think that is
There's a meeting coming up, and
Yeah.
I'll be on that as well.
Yeah, there's part and parcel with that is kind of, facilities and things like that are a big concern. So has your board or you internally, have you identified, not as it pertains to the fair necessarily, but needs? I mean, because in my mind, as you tell that story, it seems a need is, larger format space. The fair community room works very well for that, but that's really what all we've got. Or is that maybe a secondary need, and a other need is additional beds in terms of hotels? And so have you guys done any of that analysis?
We have not done that analysis just because we haven't had, typically we don't have large events like that. The only analysis that we can kind of come up with is when we were speaking about Black Cat, the reason that they needed to grow was because they wanted to bring in more people. And if you look at the cost of their event, it's literally $35 to come.
Yeah.
Which is insane. So you think about somebody coming in from out of town. So one of the things that they discussed that kind of started that, we probably need to figure this out, was that all of the authors that they had were very generous and very kind. None of them were mean, but it's very odd for authors of that caliber to come to a fairgrounds community center. Not that it's not great, but you're looking, that's why they're going to be hosting kind of the author seminar type things. They're going to be hosting those at Williams. Now, Williams is great because it's a 350 seat event venue, and it is very close to the fairgrounds. So we're able to create more of like a loop for people to get to those things. But it does beg the question, like, if this is going to continue to be something that they're going to do, what other types of events could we attract with the right facilities?
Well, and I think that question maybe goes to a bigger question about strategic planning and things like that. Because
Correct.
it was the Black Cat story that made me think of that. But I think overall, just kind of looking at the inventory of assets we have as a destination and saying we need more of this, even that seems like the kind of black swan type event where it comes out of nowhere and is great. We're probably not going to have a lot of those. But for the things that we already do well, what tools and resources do we need to make us do those things better?
And it's threefold. I mean, it's event space, it's beds, and it's transportation. The transportation one is tricky. I know think about Candlelight Walk. I mean, we have great parking in Medina compared to some other places that I've been that are our size.
Yeah.
I think of Worthington, Ohio, and it's a very similar destination. They have a convention center that's very close. We don't necessarily have that. So you think about those three assets, and it's a big undertaking to kind of understand the scope of that. But again, you think transportation, how many trolleys we have to rent for that event to get people from the high school to here, and it is a much bigger conversation.
You had the conversation with Shannon, and I know you're aware with Main Street too, that we're working on a pilot program to address that special event type of transportation. Yeah.
And there are lots of resources out there. Actually, this weekend I went down to visit my daughter Shannon and spoke with Kenny, who is the driver of the trolley that Maysville, Kentucky has, and they have a downtown area, and it was very interesting to get his feedback on how things go, and we're going to kind of continue that conversation. So
Yeah.
lots of big things coming. It's
No,
just-
that's-
we
I
just
mean,
don't know yet. Yeah.
And it's only, the opportunities, I think, are only going to be enhanced when
Yes.
the hotel does get finished. And,
Yes.
You know, and
Yep.
not that it's just a Medina-focused thing, but that one locally has
I
been,
think
has
it's
been
going
a
to,
need.
yes,
so.
I think it's going to set the stage for other opportunities.
Oh,
Great.
yeah, definitely.
So-
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you
work.
for sharing, yeah.
Thank
Great
you.
work.
Yep, keep up the good work, both of you. Although the golf part, I don't know how, you know. That seems like a pretty good gig, so, yeah.
You volunteering? For research purposes?
Take care, thanks again. Next up is public comment. Is there any public comment? This is just general to the, anything. Stan, Chairman? No? No public comment? Nobody else catching my eye. So we'll move on to discussion session. Does anybody have anything for discussion? Yeah, Brett. Hello again.
I have a copy of this for each one of you guys. This is the preliminary. For background, for those in the room that are not familiar, as we have worked over the past couple of years to structure our IT services provided to our county service agencies that we've needed to address in-house, the commissioners have tasked me with the ability to kind of guide the ship on IT over the recent months while we go through and redo some key points in our network to increase stability and service, as well as hopefully reduce costs for the taxpayer. At the end of the day, going through and kind of taking a look at how we've done things, I've arrived at a solution for us that presently across the county we employ about 120 switches that help make all of our networks operate together. The cost of these switches is very large and continues to get larger. One switch replacement is about somewhere around $3,500 on the low end, up to about $25,000 to $40,000 on the high end. We require presently about 8 of those high-end switches to run to run what we call our ring, which distributes network services out to many critical operations across the county, including the sheriff's office, the county home, the juvenile detention center, the courts. These operations obviously cannot have a lot in the way of interruption. I have worked hard to kind of figure out a solution for us to bring us the best service as well as a cost balance for us, and have arrived at working directly with our switch manufacturer to create a network infrastructure as a service agreement. Essentially what this means is that we would transitioning, instead of purchasing these switches, we would instead enter into a lease contract directly with Extreme Networks, which is the provider of those switches for us. Extreme would then come in and develop and assist us with our network infrastructure needs. We'll be able to drop switches in and pull them out as we need, and be able to modify the lease agreement based off of the many changes and different things that we have going on around the county. For instance, right now we have approximately 50 of those switches, of those 120 switches, are well beyond their service life. The average service life for a switch is between 5 and 7 years. We have some that are on the network that are running into not quite their second decade, but we have some that are at least 15 years on right now. These items need replaced. In going through and purchasing at present costs and then building out an obsolescence plan, it just doesn't make a lot of sense for us to maintain individual ownership of purchasing these switches, except to push them beyond their service life, which really shouldn't happen because we are dealing with infrastructure, and rather critical infrastructure.
So does this lease plan, or service plan, I guess, replace all of those on day one, or just the ones that are overdue for replacement?
So presently, I have us slated to go through and do all of the ones that are overdue on replacement. I've built out a 7-year plan with Extreme, designed on the idea the first phase would take place as we're reaching the end of this year. Part 0 of that plan actually is happening right now, which is we're developing a centralized management system for all of these. This is something that we have been remiss on and could really have used probably several years back. Presently, in order to make any changes to any of these switches, you have to go in and manually log into each individual switch and make that change. And as you could probably guess, 120 switches, that's a long time to go through and make some of the larger changes, which is really kind of a waste of resources on our part. A centralized management system is presently being installed to help maintain and provide us better alerting and better monitoring of our network overall. And then we will start, with you guys blessing, the finalized version of this contract will be in front of you guys next week, and I'll make a much shorter presentation.
What happens to the? I mean, it's a service, so they own the hardware.
They own the hardware, correct?
And then, when the agreement's terminated, we'd be on the hook to replace that hardware, or is there a lot of I think of like a leased equipment contract where there's a purchase option?
We are comfortable with the idea that realistically there would be a buyout.
Yeah.
However,
I didn't get a chance to look at that. Is that in here? Or?
It is not presently in there, because what happens is if we terminate that contract, then that goes to a different phase where we would then negotiate whether we're buying out.
Yep.
Importantly, I would want to say that we have used Extreme's products at this point in time for the past over 15 years.
Yeah.
It is unlikely for us to change horses at this point because they are designed to fit in our market space. Their sled component is rather large. That's the bulk of their business, is dealing with state and local and education. Their services are designed specifically to create secure networks for people that are operating across many channels, including things like having the sheriff's network functioning on one layer. Extreme runs and owns a setting for fabric, is what we call it, which essentially breaks all of our traffic into different layers, adding to both the security and for the ability to really make sure that items from one network layer are not visible to somebody else. So the sheriff's traffic can function on one layer while the county home's traffic is on another, while administration's on another, for example. We have utilized this feature to some degree in the past and have been growing that over the past year. And that is part of our phase 0 implementation, along with that centralized management, is to finalize those transitions.
And this agreement is essentially the format of the one that we'd be voting on next week. So
Correct.
if we have issues or questions about it, we should bring those up
Exactly.
before next week's meeting. And then the quote on the back page is reference to port. So our subscription level is based on the portion of port utilization? Is that,
Yes.
Okay.
And this is
and then there was
actu-
a reference, I'll let you answer, but there was a reference to APs, and I didn't know what APs were.
Okay, so yes, this covers our entire network infrastructure across the county. Now, this is a particular slice of 50 of those switches, plus a replacement of all of our Wi-Fi. We have used kind of bridging the gaps. We have used rather old Wi-Fi connectivity across the county, and it's at a point now where much of it is deprecated and not working the way that it should. So this replaces all of our Wi-Fi points, and it also develops a stable connectivity with what we refer to as our satellite offices. Though the county all runs across Medina County Fiber Network's backbone, there are places where we have buildings that Medina County Fiber cannot reach. So there is a component in here that also addresses that, so that those buildings are able to essentially seamlessly work with our networks. Now, our Wi-Fi will have a complete overhaul
Yep.
across this. Our switches, we're doing 50 of them at present. We will do another chunk of them in a couple of years, and then finally roll out the final ones. By year 3, we will replace all of our switches. This agreement allows us an additional refresh. It's designed to be 7 years long, where Extreme will come in and replace all of the hardware at our request, including doing any upgrades that we might need.
Within the first 7 years.
Within the first 7 years, which allows me to maintain a much more reasonable obsolescence time plan of that 5 to 7 years.
And all hardware costs are included in this number.
Correct. Well, this is our first 50, but yes, all hardware costs will be built into this. Overall, the cost versus buying these replacement switches, we will be saving the county approximately $85,000 per year over the first 3 years.
That should have been the report.
As we move forward, my goal is to have it save us somewhere. Right now, my preliminary estimations are about $135,000 per year after year 3.
Good. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You buried the lead. Next, Matt, you have something. Does anybody else have anything other than Matt? Denise, you're here
Matt and
with
Denise.
Matt.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Matt and Denise.
Yeah, so similar to the discussion item we just had, we just wanted to update the commissioners on our efforts to draft a request for qualifications. This goes back to several public meetings that were held a couple months ago regarding updates to the subdivision regulations as well as a draft developers agreement. So we're circling back on those discussions. We do have a draft RFQ that we intend to present to the commissioners next week, if acceptable. Denise has kind of served as the point person to take lead on this project. Again, I think the focus of this draft is that we are looking for a professional consulting firm to advise us on subdivision regulation updates. And then I'll also take a look at the draft development agreement that was presented previously to see if that's something that we believe would be beneficial or not beneficial. So for discussion, we just wanted to put that in front of the commissioners before we present you with the resolution next week.
Can I go first?
All right.
Good. Go ahead.
That's good.
Yeah, so I am all in on the professional company coming in to give us guides on the subdivision regulations. After going through the public hearing, I'm not so sure I'm interested in a developer's agreement anymore. I think our developers have told us that, you know, we've had a lot of decades of building, and I'd like to focus right now on the subdivision regulations. And I'm all in on the professional company and the RFQ and everything. I just, after what we heard from the feedback from the developers, I don't know if we need the developers agreement.
I tend to disagree because the developers agreements were written largely with obviously the Andy Conrad. This is about the public infrastructure. There has to be agreements with developers in any development. And the question is, what format, what are the conditions, what are the requirements, how do you fold it into your subdivision regs? I know largely they were working on documents that were produced by the county engineer as well as Jeremy Sinko, and they reflect the needs of those departments to make sure that those public investments in infrastructure are built to spec and secure, and that there's an understanding with the developer as to what the requirements are going to be.
I guess my question then is, like the pushback that we heard all these years we've been doing it without the specific developers agreement, and I get the subdivision regulations being updated. Yes. I guess I felt from what we learned from the public hearing that the developers agreement was not
we had a handful that were adamantly opposed to it, and largely based upon their experience of their project and changes over their project, that actually many of their complaints would have been resolved had there been a developers agreement in place before. Because of changes. I mean, if you want to talk about Sharon Falls and that particular development, I think the argument could be made that changes because of the project itself and the scope and so forth aggravated many of the issues, as well as, I'll just say, the working relationship. There's still issues between, I'll just say, between our sanitary engineer and that developer as it's going forward, that a developer's agreement would help us define as to how the decisions are made, based on engineering and economics, as opposed to differences of, opinion. But I really strongly think we ought to be reviewing it. I'm okay with the idea that it should, upon further review, we decide that actually we don't really need to have it as detailed as it was before. There were provisions that Jeremy added in there that I think largely we could say could not be accomplished, and that's what the developers were focused on the provisions within that actually would be a disservice not only to us but also to the developers. But there's others that would benefit us, because we can lay out the details of as that subdivision goes through various phases as to what the conditions are for that public infrastructure. And it's about protecting public infrastructure.
So, and I guess that's the question I have too, is does that, I think your point is that necessitates some sort of developer's agreement, not necessarily the one that we've already reviewed.
Agreed, yeah. Yeah.
The question I guess I would have for the consultant that we're hiring to advise us on this is, could that same language that protects the public infrastructure be incorporated into the subdivision regulations? Then we don't need an additional document, because that was one of the pieces of feedback I was hearing from those public comments, was maybe you don't need a developer's agreement at all per se, but you could address that in a subdivision subdivision
That's what I
regulation.
called the public hearing outcome.
And we had some of those that have identified that they actually have experience with developer agreements outside our county.
Right.
And all the other entities that use them. Wayne County's been doing it for several decades. And so the question comes down to is, can we have such, and how you incorporate it in your subdivision regulations in such a fashion that we address many of those issues, but still to protect the public infrastructure?
So with that in mind, because I don't disagree with that, and we heard some people say developer agreements aren't typical, and we heard others say we've been dealing with them in other communities that look different than ours. So you're right. I don't know that there was really a consensus on.
Jeremy, you've been involved with your developers agreements elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
Other communities.
Yeah, we've heard that. We've certainly.
It's a standard.
Right.
So the question is we should probably ought to continue to include that for consideration. What it actually looks like in the end. Well, that's why we're bringing in a professional.
Well, and that's so what
professional team to do that.
What I see in our scope of work here that's laid out, and I appreciate your work on this thus far too. What I see on this is, like under deliverables, there's a specific reference to a development agreement, and I don't want to start by saying, provide final version of the regulations and development agreement. Well, I'd like to leave the door open that perhaps the regulations incorporate the infrastructure concerns that we have, because I agree we need some clarity on that we currently lack, and I think I've had the same takeaway that you just summarized from those public meetings. That lack of clarity is a source of friction right now, and so we do need clarity there. But I don't know that clarity needs to come in the form of a separate agreement.
Can we put an additional line in the RFQ that if all our needs could be accomplished in just the subdivision regulations, could that be a recommendation from this professional company?
Well,
or are we specifically in this RFQ asking them for both documents?
And that's where, because deliverables says final version of regulations and development agreement, I feel like that's kind of saying that's a foregone conclusion.
Well, you have two engineers, our sanitary engineer and our county highway engineer, that have asked to move forward in considering a draft developers agreement. For us to hire a consultant and come in here, we could just forget the whole thing and just do like we had the draft, and we'll just continue on with our subdivision regulations with minor changes. Don't add any more money, but we still have two engineers that are asking for us to be able to look at, honestly and frankly, development agreements that will help address many of the issues that they've been running into, with some assurances that the public infrastructure will be protected, and here's the conditions for the construction of that developers would be expected. I think that's reasonable. My vote is contingent on making sure that we are going to address their concerns. They're not here to talk about it. If we want to have another special session to talk with those two engineers, our technical people, as to why it's needed, we can do that. But remember, at this point, we are going to be actually making sure that there is representation from the development community in the development of this. They're going to have a seat at the table they didn't have before.
So the seat at the table, and then that would also include the HBA having inputs, not.
Absolutely.
Okay, so.
So no draft is going to be produced that they at least haven't had input on.
Well, and that's
Equally with the county engineers.
And I agree. All those parties need to have input on it. The fundamental difference, and what I'm hoping this gets us to, is whether we like it or not. I probably don't like it that much, but I won't speak for the two of you. By virtue of the work we've done on this so far, we own the next version of this agreement, and we own the next version of this process, and the document that we put out there needs to have a lot more buy-in from both of those
Agreed.
stakeholders and set of stakeholders than the
We
first
not
one
only
did.
own it, the planning commission owns it.
Yeah. Well,
It's their subdivision regulations.
Right.
And their references to that.
I'm not disrespecting the request of the engineers.
Yeah.
But I also want a huge buy-in from the developers,
Agreed.
the contractors, the excavators, the engineers, in the private sector. I mean, this will be their document that they have to live by, and so I want equal buy-in from their needs and what will make that economy of that industry, thrive with regulations that's not going to be oppressive.
Well, if we take the words of some of the critics that they want to eliminate almost all regulations, whether those are county-wise or within the township, frankly, that's where I get most, I'll get disturbed. This whole concept that 30% of the cost of development is due to unneeded regulations, and that if we just got rid of the regulations, it'd all be fine, is, I think, contrary to the facts or history. And I feel that we have existing regulations, we actually have, the townships have regulations, there's a county built, there's obviously a Ohio Building Code. All these regulations play into this. Where it gets integrated and how it works with development is it happens within our subdivision regulations. It happens within all our communities working together.
I'm
So
not
I think we have
opposed
to have
the subdivision regulation at all. I'm all in on.
And those subdivision regulations require looking at the county regulations that we actually pass. So if we're talking about totally revising our regulations based upon the criticism like, all regulation is bad, we're going to be in trouble.
no, I don't
not
think
what
that's.
was-
Yeah, I don't think that's.
Okay.
I think the two big takeaways I heard from the public meetings that we had were transparency and this. There was, I guess, kind of the concept that the cost shifting of the structure of some of the financial guarantees and things like that was unfair.
Agreed.
And I don't have. It was pretty clear there was a consensus with no vote, but there was an obvious consensus that those things weren't gonna live forward in there. But the reality of where this moves forward, and perhaps I think where there's some alignment with what all three of us are saying on this, is if the process of having all the stakeholders around a table to discuss this lends itself to accomplishing the county's interests and being responsive to the developer community's concerns, and we can do that in a way that wouldn't necessitate the creation of a developers agreement. I just would like to think that we'd be open to that, and I don't think that's about dialing back the existing regulations. I think it accomplishes the world you're talking about, where we have more clarity, more transparency, and a better understanding forward. But I'm a little bit concerned about the RFQ because it says, one of the deliverables is a development agreement, and so then that puts the
That was my original point.
Draft regulations and proposed development agreement.
No, but I mean the deliverables in the RFQ.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking straight at that word. It says assist with offer subject matter expertise on the draft regulations and proposed development agreement. There already is a proposed draft agreement, so recognizing that, and basically it is offers subject matter expertise on that. If their expertise says you really don't need, you can tone it down, you can get a middle ground, then.
But one of the under deliverables is provide a final version of the regulations and development agreement.
Right.
And I just would feel better if it were, if one is necessary, if the lead up work.
To say,
Yeah.
if one.
Because,
I
because
think those
to your
exact
point,
words
it
are
may
better.
very well be, there may very well be no other way to protect the county infrastructure in the absence of a development agreement. If that's the takeaway, then we're going to have a development agreement that looks fundamentally different than the draft that we've already reviewed.
So do we get rid of the word final version?
No, I think.
Final draft?
Provide a final version of the regulations.
Should we say final draft? Because the regulation itself has to be approved by
I mean,
not
either
only
way,
the planning commission,
right.
as well as the various entities of that. So do we just get rid of the word final
Well,
version, just say final draft?
Yeah, under public presentations, it says present the final draft to the planning commission. So I
That's what I'm
assume that's
saying.
the final draft of the deliverables identified in there.
So we just basically say just final draft.
And I don't have them,
It says the version, just about the.
well, I guess the way it's written to me, it
It's
seems
two
we're gonna
documents.
be presented with two documents,
Yeah.
and I'd like the RFQ to, my opinion would be the RFQ to be written that the second document, if necessary, if it can't all be accomplished in the subdivision regulations, the needs of the two engineers. So I guess,
Well-
but the RFQ is telling them to do a developer's agreement the way it's written.
Could we just add the words "it" after development agreement if necessary?
Under
If
deliverables?
If applicable.
Okay, fine.
I think that I mean.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And
Because
that would apply only to the development agreement.
I'm not foreclosing the possibility that
Right.
it may very well be
exactly.
necessary.
If they
All
show
right,
us
yeah.
a version that
Yeah.
is
Well,
great.
And I, admittedly, the version we had out there was one-sided.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely one-sided. That was demonstrated to us. It's all one-sided, crafted by, from the county's needs.
Right.
So what we'll have achieved is a balance between those.
And
Because
what-
developers still have a benefit from having a development agreement.
I
That's
think
the
that was
reason
clear
for
from,
it.
I think that was absolutely clear from the public discussion too. And
Yeah.
I just worry, I don't know the answer to this.
Right.
But I worry from the preliminary discussions we had that the development agreement itself may have forever been tainted by the version that was public. And if that's the case, this it leaves the door open to there not being a development agreement, but having the concepts of it built in some other way. And that's what I like about that that two-word change, I think accomplishes that. So I think
Okay.
the points of
All
what
right.
we're trying to accomplish are there regardless.
Okay. All
And
right.
if they show us a potential developers agreement that both accomplish what the engineers want and what our building industry wants, great.
Yes.
But I do agree
And
with
I
you.
think that's possible.
I do too, but I do
yeah.
agree with you, the way it's worded, we are directing them to produce two
Yep.
Can I ask a
documents.
question for the record?
Sure.
So under deliverables, the final bullet point should read, provide a final draft version of the regulations and development agreement if necessary.
I think I think final version is final. I think it's just adding if necessary, because the final draft is in number 4, present the final draft to the planning commission and board of county commissioners. So the final version itself is already kind of contemplated to be a draft.
Right, so provide a final draft of the regulations and development agreement if applicable.
Oh, you changed that to draft?
Yeah,
that's
I was
fine.
just gonna change it.
If applicable?
Yeah.
Okay,
Draft
sure.
version.
If applicable is the
Sure.
important word.
If
in my mind.
applicable?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think at this point, the appropriate forum will end up being the work group to go back as to how
Yeah.
this all works together, so,
Yep.
okay.
Okay.
Anything else on that?
No, I'm thrilled about that Steve brought off the work group, that will be a very meaningful discussions.
Yeah. It looks like Jeremy may have something to add.
First question, who is the worker?
Do we have a work
Denise?
group established?
I'm sorry.
Denise, who is the composition of the work group?
Yeah, so it was going to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we envision this being a very diverse group of individuals from both the HBA, the development community, builders, obviously some county staff.
Yet to be
There'll
determined.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
be determined, and then some members of our planning commission. So we're going to make sure there's both public and private participation.
As well as township officials.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Has anybody expressed an interest to you, Denise, on serving on that? Have you heard from anybody?
Oh, Jeremy.
Jeremy.
It's like General Washington dressed in the uniform. Maybe there's somebody here already.
Jeremy has been so involved, I would
Oh,
be
yeah.
thrilled if you would serve.
Yep.
But I also think it's important that we invite the president of the HBA board, HBA board?
Correct.
Good.
Yeah, so I haven't reached out to anyone just yet, primarily because we were waiting for this discussion and direction from you. We did have a work group established working on the subdivision regulations that was established a couple of years ago, but given the discussion regarding the I guess the relaunch of the review, I think that work group probably needs to be expanded and rethought before we relaunch the work group again. So I do think that it's probably going to be a little bit, as Matt mentioned, diverse and inclusive, across industries and jurisdictions.
Good.
We already have one.
Right. So I have one already. So I'm like,
We have
maybe
from
5% of the way there.
Our various meetings with the developer agreement, we've already had people emerge
Right.
that have volunteered.
Correct.
Trina Devaney talked about representing Montville about.
Right, and we do have representation from Montville
Yeah,
already
yeah.
established
That's
with
right, yeah.
Jeff Brandon.
Mhm.
So again, as we look at the depth and breadth and the diversity of our townships, we'll want to think about the location of our townships in the county, and I'd like to have some diversity within our townships, from types of townships and who those individuals are.
Two from Montville, right? Like, if Jeff's gonna do it. should-
Right, Jeff was a pretty
Well,
big
this-
player, but
in
I'd
the-
like to have a
In the
diverse
past,
group.
normally it's been, did we commissioners end up doing that appointment, or was the planning commission did the appointment last time for the work group? Do you remember?
There wasn't a formal appointment, it was more or
Oh,
less
okay,
just,
guys, okay,
giving the list to you, giving it to the planning commission, and they were like, yes, this looks good. So, but I would like to have a diverse group from our townships in
of course.
particular.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, if folks are interested, they could reach out
They
to you?
can reach out to me, absolutely.
While you're up there, do we
Oh.
know the deadline for the fair survey? Do we
The
have
fair
it?
survey is still active,
Okay,
so if.
it hasn't been cut off yet.
Not yet,
Okay.
not yet. In fact, I accessed it this morning, and we've planned our focus groups for the week of the 25th, I believe. So, and we have really good responses right now, so I'm very optimistic.
Good. And Jeremy had another question.
Yeah, so my second point, I guess, comment would be relative development agreement.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the second question is, so relative to RFQ, because one of the questions or comments that came up earlier was the engineering code that had gotten adopted, and also is making sure, I think, that all three of those, if you end up with three, but making sure consistency across all of them. Because I think even within the county, there was maybe a misunderstanding of what was in each and what's already covered. So, there ends up being, 160 pages roughly in the engineering code, the subdivision regulations, whatever that ends up. If there ends up being a developer's agreement, it's trying to get more concise and making sure that everything is consistent so that one doesn't.
So is this
Agreed.
the subdivision the engineering code for subdivision regulations, stormwater management? Is that another one? I mean, what we could do is.
I think the question
or-
becomes, as a developer group, when we
Right.
come forward with a set of plans, we're held to a lot of different standards, a lot of different rules and regulations. And, developer's agreement ends up becoming another one, but we need to at least make sure, we spent weeks talking about the developer's agreement only to go back and realize that the engineering code adopted in January already had the financial
Some of those
guarantees that
concepts.
we were so worried about in the developer's agreement, and it was already adopted. So obviously, we've rectified that, but I think through this process, it would be nice that whoever's spearheading it is reviewing and making sure that there's consistency,
Okay.
so that the intent, the end intent is met across any and all documents that are determined to be required.
How do
That is
you-
an absolutely great point. That's exactly what
Yeah.
we end up needing to do, because they're going to be part of it. And as you point out, we already have those regulations in place.
So under scope of,
Yeah.
under scope of work and review and analysis, we probably ought to add in the engineering code as well,
Okay.
because that
Well,
isn't,
oh, yeah.
And it's not necessarily rewriting the engineering code, right?
Yeah, but
This entity's
it's
probably not
making sure
rewriting
that
it, but
part of
it's.
that component.
it should be review and analysis, because I think the transparency everybody craves out of this, and I mean everybody, comes from consistency of those interfeeding
As I understood, the
documents.
developer agreement was to help synchronize those.
Yeah.
In a single document that makes reference to those applicable to that specific type of development. We have subdivisions that the county's not providing, let's say, the sewer, or not providing the water, but the highway department is involved. So you've got the different types of subdivision, different kind of community, but we need to make sure that in the subdivision regulations and in the developer agreement that it synchronizes it specifically to that development need.
And I think it's plausible
Yeah.
that after that review of the subdivision regulations and the engineering code, that might be the thing that lends itself to a third document.
Oh,
that,
agreed.
You know, as
Agreed.
much as I don't want that to be a foregone conclusion,
Agreed.
that might be the conclusion that they make when they look at those two things and say, yeah, well, we'll make it streamlined in this new vehicle that looks fundamentally different than the previous version of it.
Right.
So,
Okay. But thank you, Jeremy. That's a
Yep.
good point.
anything else? Anything else? No? Okay. Anything, do you have anything else, Matt, aside from development agreement?
I'll be very brief. This is more of an informational item for the public. The recycling bins that were placed at the Cloverleaf High School have temporarily been removed. The schools are in the process of a construction project and redoing their parking lot. Individuals who are looking to use those recycling bins, they can either go to the Westfield Township Municipal Center, obviously our solid waste district, or the Westfield Center Village Hall. Once the project is completed at the high school, those bins will be brought back on site. We expect that to be roughly October 12th when that would occur. So just temporarily, they're not there. That's it.
I guess I'll go ahead and put you on the spot, but I think you can handle it. Gas aggregation. You want to
Yeah,
explain
yeah.
what's going on? I know we've got a lot of calls on that. You want to go ahead and explain that?
Yeah. So, in fact, I'm trying to put something together where we can have our broker come in and answer some questions for the commissioners. As you know, our contract with Constellation Energy ended this past June. Earlier this year, we did issue a request for proposals. So we work with our broker almost on a daily basis to receive aggregation pricing. Constellation is not providing us with competitive quotes. The other two suppliers that we're currently getting pricing from are AEP Ohio and Nordic, both of which are considerably higher. If we were going to lock in on the current rate that we're being quoted, is considerably higher than what a standard choice customer is currently receiving. So I think it's important for everybody to understand you continue to receive uninterrupted gas service from your existing supplier. But we're trying to find a favorable rate that we could lock into for whether that's a year, 2 years, or 3 years. Interestingly enough and concerning is that our electrical aggregation, that contract runs through 2026, in which we're going to have to undertake a similar process and request for proposals. And as we all know, electrical prices, those are obviously getting more expensive by the day. So we're keeping a close eye on it, and I'll see if I can coordinate a schedule where Mr. Lauder Young can come in here and give you another update in the next couple weeks.
Okay, good.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
No.
Anything else?
I wanted to bring up ECDAC.
Okay.
The levy's on the ballot. We
Yep.
have a renewal.
Yes.
I think we need to communicate to the public what that means. I mean, since it first was instituted in the 1980s, it has had some changes. It is largely focused on law enforcement. Before, over the years, it was dealing with mental health, recovery services, as well as education. Now it's over the last number of years under, I'll say with a new county prosecutor interpretation, it is just solely enforcement and school resource officers. But I think we need to communicate to the public that if we're going back to the ballot and asking them to vote for this, in an age that is, I'll say a lot of people are upset about the property tax they're paying, and so we're going to have to explain to them why we want them to continue and how much they're going to pay, is what's the consequence if they voted down. They'll lose their school resource officers, as I understand it, and likewise we wouldn't have county-wide drug enforcement activity. I guess that would be accurate?
Well, the bulk of the budget is the drug enforcement task force.
Right.
And then The remainder is absolutely the the school resource officers.
So without that, there would be no county money devoted for those purposes.
Yes.
And we don't typically have an update from them at our board meetings. It might be time, maybe we invite them to
I'd agree.
to a future meeting and
I agree.
and present a little bit to the extent they can on some of the activities are covert, but
Yeah.
the public facing activities are certainly something I think the public would want to know about.
Yeah, we're not allowed to tell people, please vote for it,
Yeah.
but we can tell them what the money's being spent on, and what, if it doesn't get approved, what we would likely
Right.
lose.
I think they'd be
Yes.
happy to
Okay.
do that. So.
Good. All right.
Anything else?
That's all I've got.
I have on the law enforcement front, it's a thank you note that it came to me, but I wanted to bring it to your attention, and I'm also going to make sure the sheriff sees it. But this was from the Lorraine County Commissioners I'll just read it. Thank you for the support provided by Medina County Sheriffs during a time of mourning in Lorraine County. Your assistance keep our community safe and allowed our officers to grieve with peace of mind. So, with sincere appreciation from Lorraine County.
I got one too.
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
They-
Individually, it was very nice.
Yeah, it was. It was thoughtful.
sent it
and
to all of us,
course,
yeah.
the
Very
tragedy
nice.
that they went through up there in our
Yeah.
sheriff's office. I was going to pass this along to the sheriff's office so they
Yeah,
Yes.
indeed.
they knew it as well. So, with that, is there anything else from our extended meeting today?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second the motion.
Motion and second. Roll call, please, Rhonda.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, but no executive session, so.